All right, let's move on now with a look at what's making French headlines today with Haxi Meisbelkin. Hi there, Haxi.
Hi, Kat.
And we're going to start off with the Libération newspaper. It's got Aleppo on its front page.
It does. Pendant ce temps à Aleppo. Meanwhile, in Aleppo, reads the paper's headline. Above a blurred image of a man rushing someone along on a stretcher. Just underneath, we read that Aleppo's rebel neighbourhoods, bastions of those who contest President Assad's regime, are now falling. Their populations are facing a dire situation.
And the Libération newspaper is apportioning blame for what's happening in Aleppo. It says France is to blame.
It does. It expresses its shame. It goes so far as to use quite a strong word at France's impotence in the face of the heavy bombardment of civilian populations. But it also expresses regret at its own ability to affect public and political opinion. The paper also expresses frustration at the fact that, and I'm quoting here, the French politician most likely to become the country's next president in May believes that supporting Assad and his Russian allies is the best way to defeat the Islamic State organisation. So, of course, the person they're referring to here is the centre-right presidential candidate François Fillon, of course.
And they've got a cartoon featuring François Fillon today.
They do. It's rather damning of Fillon, needless to say. We see one of Assad's cronies informing the Syrian president that Monsieur Fillon has called to congratulate Assad on his fight against terrorism. Assad, who you can see there, dousing Aleppo in a toxic liquid, replies, "I'll call him back in a minute, once I've freed Aleppo from its inhabitants."
As you said, François Fillon, he's going to be the Conservative candidate for the French presidential election in May. Many people predicting that he will, in fact, be the next president. So we've got some analysts who've been picking through exactly what his positions on the Middle East are.
Absolutely. Let's look at a piece in Le Monde. It's headlined, "Fillon is wrong about totalitarianism in the Middle East." Now, this is a reference to Fillon's much-quoted vow to abolish Islamic totalitarianism. The author here argues that if Fillon considers the likes of Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State organisation as totalitarian entities, then it's quite simply hypocritical to remain silent in the face of what President Assad is currently doing to the civilian population of East Aleppo.
All right, and we've got Islamist groups in Syria losing territory, in Syria and Iraq as well, of course. Hundreds of European jihadist recruits are making their way back home, according to the 20 Minutes newspaper.
They are. Under the headline, "Back from Jihad," the paper claims that some 200 French citizens have recently abandoned the battlefields of Syria and Iraq and are now returning to France. Le Monde quotes that same figure, adding that some 700 French citizens are believed to be currently fighting in Syria. Now, the return of these radicalised individuals is, we read here, deeply worrying for the French authorities. This article states that when someone has so completely rejected the values of the society into which they've been born, it's very difficult to know how best to deal with them. Do you simply find a way to imprison them? Or should the state push in its attempts to de-radicalise these people? It's an article that's worth a read.
Interesting indeed. Well, we mentioned the French presidential election just a couple of moments ago. Coming back to that, François Hollande, the current French president, he still hasn't said if he's actually going to stand for his own job.
He hasn't, but Le Parisien is pretty sure that he will. By most accounts, François Hollande is the least popular French president in modern history. But this paper thinks he will be putting himself forward for a second term. But this is the key thing here, really. The paper's sources claim that Hollande will choose not to take part in the left-wing primaries due to take place in January. Now, that's a decision that would, we read here, wreak havoc among the French left, especially, of course, if Prime Minister Manuel Valls decides he wants a shot at the presidency too.
And we've also got a centrist candidate who has made a bid for the presidency in the past. Apparently, going to be heading back into the fray?
Apparently so. If we take a look at this article in Le Figaro, we read that Bayrou is refusing to get behind François Fillon. Now, the leader of the Democratic Movement Party has previously said that he wouldn't be a presidential candidate if moderate conservative Alain Juppé won the Conservative nomination. Now, of course, Juppé is out of the running, and Bayrou, we read here, looks likely to put himself forward for the top job for the fourth time in his career.
All right, let the jockeying for position commence. Thanks very much. Haxi Belkin there, taking us through some of the top headlines in today's French newspapers.